4 children died in 2018. Last week, the man who sold the vehicle that killed them were acquitted. The trial took 7 years. And on the same day, same Thursday, same calendar, same universe that supposedly runs on cause and effect, the Dutch government published a report recommending that politicians get an 18% pay raise. I want you to really sit with that. I will wait. Okay, let's go. September 20th, 2018. A Stint electric cargo bike, a vehicle specifically designed to carry children, which is the one thing it turned out couldn't safely do, loses braking power at a railway crossing. A train hits it, 4 children died, 1 survived. The prosecutor had hundreds of malfunction reports, not 1 or 2, hundreds. Stint stalling at intersections, stalling at railway crossings, ending up in ditches. The executives knew, and they kept selling the bikes. 4 children died, and last Thursday, after 7 years, a court acquitted both executives. Now, the court did agree the Stint could and should have been safer. They confirmed the executive falsified documents. They acknowledged design flaws. But, and here is the thing, emergency brakes were not legally required at the time. So if your product kills children, but you weren't technically required to make it not to kill children, no crime. I'm sorry, I just need to say this again because I genuinely cannot tell if it stopped making sense or if it never made sense. If your product kills children, but you weren't technically required to make it not to kill children, no crime. The court also noted, I'm reading, in most instances, it has not been proven that the product was harmful. Most instances. Thousands of bikes were sold, only 1 crashed into a train. So statistically, fine. Just 1 time, with the train and the children. But most of the time, great bike, very safe, 5 stars, would recommend. And then, the court ruled that the trial itself took too long. 7 years is unreasonable under Dutch law, so because the legal system took 7 years to process this case, the executives get leniency. The delay became the defense. Which means if you just wait long enough, the consequences expire, like yogurt. Except yogurt usually warns you first. So the system that spent 7 years reaching a verdict decided that because they spent 7 years, punishment would be inappropriate. The job is very difficult. Now, you might think, okay, isolated incident, tragic, probably a fluke, but the system generally works. Sure. Let me tell you about something happening right now. Klarna, the Swedish fintech, buy now, pay later. You know them. Very popular with people who want things immediately and prefer to deal with consequences later, which honestly apparently includes Klarna itself. Since April 2025, Klarna has been running an illegal debt collection operation in the Netherlands, and the government knows, and they are doing nothing. Here is how debt collection works in the Netherlands. You must be registered. There is a public registry. It exists. But Klarna, it's not on it. Has not been on it for 10 months, which is, I want to be precise, not a gray area, not a technicality, not a vibe. It is illegal. Clearly, plainly, legally illegal. And they have been sending debt collection notices this whole time, including, and this is my favorite detail, I think about this when I can't sleep, at 10:56 p.m. 10:56 at night, someone at Klarna looked at their screen, looked at the clock, looked back at the screen and thought, yes, now is the moment to send threatening debt collection notice to a private citizen. Registered debt collectors, by the way, have rule about this: times of day, frequency, communication standards, because they are registered. And registered means regulated. And regulated means accountable. But Klarna is not registered, so Klarna has no rules. Last week, a parliamentarian asked the State Secretary for Justice and Security, a person whose entire job is justice and security, whether Klarna is breaking the law. The State Secretary confirmed Klarna is not registered, and he confirmed registration is required. And then he said, paraphrasing only slightly, that he can't call it a crime because enforcement is the inspectorate's job, not his. He's the State Secretary for Justice and Security, and he can't say if something is illegal. Imagine being a doctor and saying, yes, that is clearly a broken arm, but setting bones is the orthopedic department problem. I'm just here to notice the arm. And when Dutch media asked Klarna why they've been operating illegally, Klarna said they needed time to understand how the law applied to them. 10 months. Dutch law professors have described the law as crystal clear, but Klarna needed 10 months to read it. And while they were reading, slowly, carefully, really absorbing the text, they kept sending those emails at 10:56 p.m. The job is very difficult. Okay, one more, a quick one. Last week, researchers published a report on Pluryn, a Dutch foster care organization documenting systematic child abuse going back to the 1990s. Pluryn response halted the investigation, refused to make findings public, and heavily redacted documents when victims asked for their own files. And their justification? Privacy law. The organization meant to protect children is using child protection law to hide abuse records from the children who were abused. And no criminal investigation, but the ministry promised better adherence to existing rules. 30 years. The job is very difficult. So February 13th, same day, the Stint executives walked free. The advisory board and the legal status of political office holders released a report, recommending an 18% salary increase for Dutch politicians. The justification is clear and sensible, and not at all insane. Politicians' workloads have increased, issues are more complex, and, this is directly from the report, citizens have higher expectations. Yes, citizens do have higher expectations. For instance, they expect that when 4 children die because of companies sold defective vehicles, someone is held accountable. They expect that when a foreign company breaks the law for 10 months at 11 o'clock at night, the government enforces it. They expect that when children are abused for 30 years in a state-funded organization, there are consequences. These are not extravagant expectations. These are not citizens demanding jetpacks and free croissants. These are people saying, please respond to obvious crimes with some form of action. And the response is, yes, we hear you, and we would like 18% more money to continue not doing that. Dutch MPs are already the highest paid parliamentarians in Europe. First place, by 7,000 euros. In a competition, nobody was trying to win. They won it anyway. And when they lose their jobs or quit, quitting counts, quitting is fine, they receive 80% of their salary for a year, then 70% for 2 more years. A minister who resigns gets 11,800 euros per month for 3 years for quitting. 4 children die. Executives walk free, and ministers walk away compensated. And the justification for all of this, the raise, the severance, the whole beautiful structure, is that politicians' salaries have lagged behind market rates. Market rates. I would love to see that job listing. I would frame it, National decision maker wanted. Must be comfortable with ambiguity, selective enforcement, and the knowledge that your personal consequences are structurally protected. Competitive salary and flexible interpretation of responsibility. As if Germany is poaching Dutch ministers. As if there is a bidding war happening. As if some headhunter somewhere is on the phone right now saying, I have a very attractive offer from Belgium, but I think we can get you to 17% and a company car. And honestly, at that point, you would be crazy to stay in public service. Market rates. The job is extremely difficult. So let me just... 4 children died in 2018 because a company sold bikes without emergency brakes. 7 years later, the executives walked free because the trial took too long. A Swedish company has been illegally collecting debt for 10 months. The minister knows, and he cannot act. Inspectorate cannot comment. And the company is still reading. A foster care organization covered up child abuse for 30 years. No investigation. And on the same day those executives were acquitted, Dutch politicians, the highest paid in Europe, asked for 18% more, because citizens have high expectations. Here is the thing. The politicians are right. Citizens do have higher expectations. They expect accountability, enforcement, and the idea that failure has some relationship to consequences. These expectations are not being met. So the people failing to meet them have concluded that the problem is the expectations. Not the failure, the expectations. And they would like 18% more to keep not meeting them. Because clearly the job is very, very difficult.